What happens next is anyone's guess. Actually, it was CNBC's Middle East team that was able to confirm late yesterday that the Afghan president, Ashraf Ghani, had effectively fled the country, paving the way for a full Taliban takeover of the capital, Kabul, and of course, a takeover of Afghanistan effectively after a 3-week campaign that saw the Taliban continue to claim provinces and cities across Afghanistan, all after 20 years of lost American blood and treasure on the ground and decades of investment into the Afghan forces, the Afghan government as well. Now, overnight, we saw incredible scenes emerging from the Afghan presidential palace that really play to just how significant this is. Taliban fighters descending on that sacred place and carrying weapons, as well as rolling up the Afghan flag, leaving it on the desk there, visually cementing their rule over the capital and the country. While that was playing out as well, we also saw incredible scenes emerging at the US Embassy in Kabul, with the US military effectively ending their longest war with an embarrassing end. We saw military helicopters coming in to help evacuate US embassy personnel on the ground there. So clearly the situation very fluid as it stands. And as I pointed out before, what happens next really remains to be seen. We understand that the president is, of course, going to be making a statement later on today. And at the same time, it's important to point out here that with the US side, it's very clear that US officials did not anticipate the fall of Kabul so quickly after President Joe Biden announced the withdrawal of US troops on the ground there. Yes, now we know the intelligence community had warned of this outcome, but policy leaders and the West ultimately ignored those warnings. We also understand that US forces are continuing to stay on the ground in a way, Biden authorizing the deployment of 5,000 troops into the country now to support the safe evacuation of US personnel that remain on the ground, and the Pentagon also sending an additional 1,000 troops to Kabul to support that as well. Meanwhile, we've also heard from the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, saying that the United States is continuing to monitor the situation and also looking at a possible transition of power with the Taliban now on the ground. Listen in.
Yes, we've seen these reports of the Afghans and the Afghan government, the Taliban, talking about the way forward. We're going to work to support those efforts. We have a team in Doha to do that, working with the United Nations, working with other interested countries, including Qatar, to see if there can be a peaceful resolution going forward, a peaceful settlement, a peaceful transfer of power. That would be good for the people of Afghanistan to avoid further bloodshed.
The US Secretary of State there speaking to NBC. Mandy, clearly the situation's still unfolding as it stands. We've been reaching out to our sources on the ground, trying to determine what the current state of the Taliban's control is, and indeed how the international community is going to respond also remains to be seen. But this is certainly being met with significant pushback, and it's unlikely that any UN member country, for example, is going to recognize the Taliban as the legitimate government of Afghanistan at this point.